All right, it being at 12:30, we will go ahead and return from our recess. And I'm going to ask if Ms. Proteau could be so kind to call the roll to reestablish quorum for us.
Sure. Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Fu.
Aye.
Harbsheets.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Tate.
Here.
Roll is complete.
Thank you so much. And we will return to item number 4, related to the foreign degree evaluation. And I will turn it over to staff for the item recommendation as well as our board response. Ms. Sorek and Mr. Gosspiegel?
Okay, I just wanted to let the board know that during the break, staff and I consulted on a process by which we could make this review more efficient. And unfortunately, we would not be able to have a single document for different members to provide the changes to be all inclusive on one document. We had some concerns about some version control there. So I understand that we want to make sure we have an efficient process. However, I think with this document in particular, we want to make sure that our discussions are both transparent to the public and to our stakeholders. And then if we can go through and make the changes to the single document, that would be extremely helpful. Most of the content in this document is going to be background that was provided by the committee consultant. So a smaller portion of the rest of this document is going to be in the draft board responses. So hopefully this will be as painless as possible. And I appreciate your patience and the board members' time and care that they took into making the suggested changes to the staff draft. So having that being said, I will go ahead and read the staff recommendation, and the board can continue with their consideration of the draft response. So the board should provide details on its recommendation to add the NRHSP as an entity that can perform foreign credential evaluation service for the purpose of licensing applicants trained in an educational institution outside the United States of Canada. Well, that is, I think, a change that we can make to the committee's work. Okay.
Dr. Phillips, I think going forward, we should just have default to you after the presentation by staff, giving your suggestions on this.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, you guys will all think of me over the weekend, I'm sure. So it's starting with the first line of the board response. In response to legislative interest around how the Department of Consumer Affairs, I think it would be more appropriate to say about how the Department of Consumer Affairs supports it. The use of English has obviously evolved over time, but I've never, and I know that that's a popular way to write that, but that's not my jam. Okay, the second sentence, as a result of this presentation, the board, it says will be, why don't we just say is seeking? And then at the beginning of the next paragraph, it says, the board would like to request the committee's assistance by establishing the statutory change. I would just say to make. statutory change. And I think that's the end of that response. That's the end of my comments. Yay.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips, for the time and care that you provided on that. Is there additional board comments? Seeing none, public comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel. The Q&A panel is now available and we will be displaying instructions shortly. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is a moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thanks, Madam Moderator.
You're welcome.
All right, any additional discussion for item number 4 related to foreign degree evaluation? All right, seeing none, we'll take on item number 5. Over to you, Ms. Sorek and Mr. Gosspiegel. And then we'll go to Dr. Phillips directly after.
Okay, the board should report back on its work reviewing licensing statutes and regulations and work with the committee to identify legislative changes to improve pathways to licensure. In addition, the board should describe how it anticipates these potential statutory changes to improve licensing timelines.
I have no comments.
Additional board comments? All right, we'll flip it over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. All right, the Q&A panel is now available. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to all panelists. We will display instructions shortly. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for public comment. Shall we close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item number 6. This is related to license reinstatement.
So the board should provide the committees with its recommendation on legislative changes that would allow license reinstatement after a non-disciplinary surrender while maintaining adequate consumer protection.
Okay, I do have some comments here. The first line oh no, have we done that already? No, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong one. What page are we on?
This is, page
31. 31 on the PDF.
Okay, did we skip the one on page? Okay.
This is issue number 6.
Okay. I actually did have comments in the prior category. I'm sorry if that confused. Very minor, though. You'll be glad to know.
Let's turn back to item number 5, pathway to licensure. And also, I would invite Dr. Harpsheets. I know she had comments for some items later down the agenda, but given the fact that this is within her purview also as chair of the licensure committee, I want to make sure we create time for that as well. So Dr. Phillips, I know you have initial comments for item 5, and then we'll turn to, and if Dr. Harpsheets, you have any comments, please do let us know. And would welcome the entire board as well to weigh in. Dr. Phillips.
Okay, on the fifth line of the first paragraph, the board's response, at the end it says, for consideration as part of sunset. I wonder if it wouldn't be more appropriate to say as part of the sunset review process. And the only other comment I had on that section is in the third paragraph, the last sentence, which says, for example, by eliminating a training category, it streamlines the licensing process. Should there be a comma between category and it? Maybe not.
Yes. There should be a comma.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. That ends my comments.
Okay. I would say, sunset review process, the sunset at that point should not be capitalized. And I had one more. Let me see. The pathways. This is a question. When we talk about pathways to licensure, it's actually a title of something. So under staff recommendation, would we want to capitalize pathways and licensure? Those two words. And then perhaps again, the word pathways in the, where is it? In the
Third paragraph.
Yes, first line.
I think if we're talking about the proposal as pathways to licensure, it would be capitalized, but because we're generically referring to the sections related to pathways to licensure, it would not be capitalized.
Are you talking about in the italicized under staff recommendation or the last paragraph?
I'm talking about in the board response,
Okay.
and the italics are from the committee staff.
Okay. Yeah. So would we capitalize it in the italicized section?
I mean, in the previous issue, we changed or to of because that was just a very minor change, but I hesitate to make changes to the committee's work.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Okay, I can live with it.
And clarification question, Ms. Sork. When you say committee's work, you don't mean the Sunset Committee made up of Dr. Phillips and me. You're referencing the legislative business and professions committees. Is that correct?
Correct. It's the legislative staff that is kind of responsible for the authorship of anything that's italicized or the preamble section. The only sections we're really referring to today are where it says board response. And that was drafted by staff with the input of the board members today.
Thank you. Dr. Harpsheets?
That's fine, I can live with it.
Dr. Phillips, any other items for?
No, sir. Not on that one, no, sir.
All right. Item, we did go to public comment for item 5 previously. There was no previous comment. We'll go to item 6 for edits, and then when we open public comment, if folks do have comments on 5, they can do that at that time as well. So item 6, license reinstatement.
And I believe I read this section, so it's just Dr. Phillips if he had
Okay, right.
changes.
Okay. I have one very minor change. It would be in the 5th line of the first paragraph of the response. The sentence actually reads, the board feels that this legislative change to the petition for reinstatement or to petition for reinstatement? Well, I can live with to petition for reinstatement. After non-disciplinary surrender, I think you would take that comma out after the word surrender.
Would it be helpful to say to change the petition process for reinstatement?
Yes. And that's all my comments.
Dr. Harpsheets, do you have any comments on this as chair of the licensure committee? All right, not seeing further board comments on this item, we are going to turn it over to public comment. For public comment, it'll be for both 6 and 5, since we did make some changes to 5 as well.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I've opened up the question and answer panel, and we will display instructions shortly. If any member would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions.
All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll turn it back to the board for discussion. And yes, Ms. Cervantes.
Mr. Floyd, I just have a question for process. So as we're going through these items, we're referring to statutory language, and that exists in the attachments to this document. Are we going to go through those as well?
Just from a staff perspective, this is language that has already been reviewed and approved by the board, so it's just for informational and reference purposes only. This is language that has already been submitted to the Business and Professions Committee staff because it was already approved by the board.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Cervantes, did you have?
No, I just wanted to get a sense for process. I had a question, but I think my question was going to be that some of the statutory language didn't have a full code number on it, but I'm guessing it's because it's already been submitted and based on where it lands, that's what the code number was. That's what I'm guessing, right?
Correct. If it doesn't have a code section assigned, it's because it's a new section.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Cervantes. Dr. Harpsheets?
I don't have anything on that. I have my mic open for the next one. For number 7.
Okay, perfect. Apologies.
No, I'm sorry, I confused you.
No, it's okay. So item 7, the staff recommendation is that the board should discuss its request to delegate final authority related to licensing issues. The board should also provide the committees with recommendations on how the board can both safeguard sensitive personal information and maintain transparency and accountability with the public regarding its licensing decisions. Dr. Harpsheets.
I would, under the board response, I think it's better to start off saying the board, capital T, is often faced, instead of oftentimes seemed a little just slangy to me. And then there's a comma, this process, when completed through the licensure committee and the full board, comma, can take months. And then the, then I was okay. I had a question, but then I changed my mind. So those were mine.
Thank you, Dr. Harpsheets. Dr. Phillips?
Yeah, just one change to the second sentence of the first paragraph. This process, when completed through the licensure committee and the full board, can take months, which may put the applicant at a disadvantage. And then I wanted to add the language or render the response to the petition untimely. Because sometimes we're ruling on petitions, the time's already run out. The person get rid of their patients or whatever. So I just thought it was useful to put or render the response to the petition untimely at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we've had that happen more often recently. And thank you.
Sure. And that is the entirety of my input.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. We'll go to public comment on item 7.
All right, I will open up the Q&A panel. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. We will display instructions for your reference.
All right, seeing no further public comment on item 7, and seeing no further discussion on item 7 from the board, we'll turn over to item number 8. Over to you, Ms. Orrick.
Okay, the board should advise the committees on the implementation of new requirements for applicants to have completed their education and training at a regionally accredited institution.
Dr. Phillips?
Yeah, I just have one comment here. It's on the second paragraph, and Ms. Orrick, maybe you can help me with this. It says, in regard to training applicants, we're talking about the applicants who have graduated at an unaccredited institution, correct?
Correct.
So applicants who have not graduated from a regionally accredited institution, not applicants in general. So I would add the words after applicants who have not graduated from a regionally accredited institution. Ms. Orrick, do you think you need the second sentence of that paragraph?
When we were drafting this, I believe this was input from Ms. Chung, and usually input like this means we might get questions about this already. So we just wanted to clarify that last piece.
The thing that I find confusing about it is that we still require that there is, that they go through certain processes for approval of their training programs, typically unless they're psych assistants, right? So they usually come through KPIC or APIC.
Correct, and I would defer to Ms. Chung on helping with this one.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Phillips. So the last sentence, actually, we want to clarify that we want to make sure that the legislature understand that school accreditation is different from the supervised professional experience, where we usually refer to training as. So that's why we made this specific. And regarding regional accreditation, so that is the education, minimum educational requirement for them to be qualified to sit for the exam. So, and then we will consider separately regarding the training where the supervised professional experience is. I hope that makes sense.
In the second sentence, could we add the word, this training is not dependent on the regional accreditation of the institution? Because there's still, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Marisela. But then do we need to say that because the supervised professional experience may not happen at the accredited institution?
Right. Most of it usually doesn't.
So, because okay, the way I'm reading it right now, it's like conflating the two ideas. Maybe I'm not reading it right. In regards to training, Applicants who have not graduated from a regionally accredited institution can continue to obtain supervised professional experience through the available pathways to meet the necessary experience requirement for licensure. This training is not dependent on the regional accreditation of the institution.
Would it make more sense if we said is independent of the regional accreditation of the institution instead of not dependent?
Yes.
I think that would make more sense.
Does that help, Maricela?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Chung, does that still make sense to you as well?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments from the board, I will flip it over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions shortly. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Thanks so much, Madam Moderator. Please do.
You're welcome.
All right, and seeing no further board discussion on item 8, we'll move over to item 9 related to research psychoanalyst registration. I will turn this back over to staff.
Staff recommendation: in coordination with the Medical Board of California, the board should advise the committee as to why research psychoanalysts are under the jurisdiction of the Medical Board of California rather than the Board of Psychology. Upon receipt of information from the Medical Board and the Board of Psychology, the committees may wish to transfer registration of registered research psychoanalysts to the Board of Psychology, which already successfully administers registration programs for individuals practicing psychology.
I have a couple of minor changes, Mr. President. The first line of that response, actually the second sentence of that response, over time, and I think we should put "and as a result of antitrust litigation," comma. So over time and as a result of antitrust litigation, this function was performed by a variety of mental health professionals. And then in the final sentence of the second paragraph, or no, I guess it's the same paragraph, it says the board is open to considering oversight of research psychoanalysts as part of the Board of Psychology and working with the Medical Board of the California. And I just said, instead of the transition, a possible transition. Since they're entertaining the notion, but they haven't committed to it. And that's the extent of my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Seeing no further board comment, I will turn it for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists.
All right, not seeing further public comment, we will turn it back to the board. And not seeing any board comment on item number 9, we will turn to item number 10, which is related to, oh, sorry, did I miss someone? Oh, yes, sorry, Ms. Cervantes, please.
just really quick. In the first sentence, starting with "traditionally" that we just edited, I'm sorry, the second sentence. Over time, and as a result of antitrust litigation dysfunction, instead of was, shouldn't it be is performed by a variety of mental health professionals? Dr.
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Cervantes. All right, so seeing no further board comment on 9, we'll move to item 10, AB 2138.
The board should provide an update in regards to its implementation of AB 2138 provisions, as well as relay any recommendations it has for statutory changes. And for some reason, I just want to point out that the font looks different here. So if we can just make sure the font is the same as the text above, the size.
Dr. Phillips, the world eagerly awaits your edits for this one.
Okay. It's a very minor change. It's the first sentence. It says, in order to implement the provisions, I think we should just say of instead of provided in. End of comments.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Any additional board comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to flip it over to public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. All right, I have opened up the Q&A panel. If anyone would like to make a comment, they can type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've reviewed items 1 through 10, and we've been fairly focused more on the technical side of the language. I just want to take a moment here to pause to make sure that we create space for board members who have substantive issues that may not have been raised up to this point for items 1 through 10. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to address any questions or concerns or comments related to 1 through 10 that may not have been reflected or captured in our focus on the technical pieces. So I'm just going to pause here for any board members and staff who have comments for 1 through 10. All right, I'm not seeing any mics go unmuted. So we will go to item number 11, related to enforcement workload and resources. I'll turn it over to Ms. Sork, and then we'll hear from Dr. Phillips.
The board should proactively determine how it plans to address a continued increase in complaint volume and how it can effectively use available resources to ensure effective consumer protection.
I have no comment on number 11 or number 12.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phillips. All right, not seeing further board comments, we will turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. All right, the Q&A panel is now available. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. We will display instructions for your reference. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, and not seeing further board comments for item 11, we will turn to item 12 related to sexual behavior.
The board should update the committees on its plan to update the definition of sexual behavior for the purpose of disciplinary action.
Dr. Phillips, you indicated you didn't have any comments on this item. Has that changed?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Ms. Cervantes, you did present on this bill earlier, so I wanted to make sure if you had any additional comments as chair of the Legislative and Regulatory Affairs Committee that you weigh in, and of course other members of the board as well.
I don't have any comments on this one. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further board questions, we will turn to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel. And if anyone would like to make a comment, they can type in the lower right-hand corner of their screen, "I want to make a comment," and submit it to all panelists.
All right, seeing no further public comment on this item, we will return to item number 12. And not seeing further board comments, we will turn to item 13 related to publishing disciplinary action outcomes.
Mr. Glassbeagle, can you scroll down, please? The board should provide additional information on its newsletter disciplinary actions section and describe how it maintains accuracy and objectivity with the information published.
Okay, I do have a comment on this section. And it's a suggestion to add what the purpose is in publishing these things in the newsletter. So at the end of our response, I would add, and I can read this, I'll read it through at a normal pace and I can read it through slowly. Publication of information regarding disciplinary matters helps to better educate licensees and thereby promotes protection of consumers of psychological services. So I'll go through it again. Publication of information regarding disciplinary matters helps to better educate licensees and thereby promotes protection of consumers of psychological services. Do you need me to repeat any of that, Jason?
Nope, got it.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further board comments, we will turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. We will open up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. All right, we have Dr. Winkleman that would like to make a comment. So Dr. Winkleman, you have been unmuted.
Hi, Elizabeth Winkleman from the California Psychological Association. I appreciate the board's attention to this issue, and I do think that there could be more of a focus on the educational aspect of how the disciplinary actions are published. And as we've brought up in previous board meetings and discussed with staff members, there have been times when the write-up was unhelpful and kind of really caused a lot of confusion among psychologists, because it seemed to say that a common practice was gross negligence. So that's one thing that I do think it's an opportunity, and I appreciate your attention to this. I don't know if it requires any change in your response. The other thing is I do know I have heard from at least one psychologist whose disciplinary action was published in error and then I believe retracted. I don't know if it was only in the email sent out to the listserv, or if I don't recall if it was also in the printed materials. But I don't want to reveal that person's. I'm not going to reveal that person's name, obviously, in an open meeting. But I know there was at least one person within the last couple of years that did happen with. So just for clarification, thank you.
All right, and this is the moderator. I see no additional comments requested. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Winkleman, for your comments. I do have a question based on Dr. Winkleman's comment to staff as it relates to the educational piece to this. My understanding that the incident referred to by Dr. Winkleman as it relates to some potential confusion has been limited to one incident. Is that correct, or are there multiple incidents which have arisen that over the last several years?
Ms. Monterrubio, do you want to respond to that?
I'm not aware of any incident. Not having the name of the licensee that Dr. Winkleman is referring to would be hard for me to even comment on that. But no, I am not aware of us making a mistake in an email blast or a newsletter. And then I just have one other comment, and it may or may not matter, but under the staff recommendation, we refer to disciplinary action. And in the first sentence, we also refer to disciplinary actions, but then in the sentence added, we're saying disciplinary matters. Do we want to say disciplinary actions and keep it consistent?
I think so. Dr. Harpsheets, do you have thoughts on this?
I, along with Dr. Winkleman, I am aware of a situation where it did happen. So I wonder if we could take that sentence out. The board has never been made aware of any time. Could we take that sentence out?
I think because this was in reference to the newsletter, and the newsletter was the focus of the information published, that's why we said that. I believe the incident that was discussed was in the email blast, and that retraction was made and amended, but it was not with the newsletter. It was with the email blast.
Ms. Dorick and Dr. Harpsheets, given that scenario, instead of striking out the entire sentence, may it just be helpful to note that the erroneous information has been published in the newsletter to specify the publication or the medium by which we're referencing?
I think it's risky to say never, because maybe it was and we don't even know about. I mean, I know of that one incident, but maybe there has been. I mean, definitely, if you wanted to keep that sentence in, I think we have to refer to the newsletter, so it's not such a global sentence. Yeah, so at least it has to refer to the newsletter, I would say. But I guess I would feel more comfortable if the sentence was out altogether, because, well, I guess it's accurate. We've never been made aware in the newsletter. Go ahead. Sorry,
go ahead, Dr. Harpsheets.
I just was I'm going to back off. Okay. I'll stop.
Maybe instead of saying the board has never, we can say the board has not been made aware.
Yes, and if we could add the newsletter in there.
Yes, that's been added at the end.
Okay.
Dr. Rogers?
Yes, hi. I have a question about the second sentence where it says there is nothing in the newsletter that is not taken from a public citation, etc. That seems like a double negative to me. Am I reading that correctly? So is it saying that information that is included has come from places such as a public citation, decision, or letter of reprimand?
That sounds like a good edit to maybe start out in the positive instead of the double negative. So
Yes.
we would start it with information in the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about all information included, all disciplinary information included in the newsletter is taken from a public citation, decision, or letter of reprimand.
Sure. And or you could also look at the first sentence toward the end where it says short summary of disciplinary actions retrieved from public legal documents, which may include. So you don't necessarily have to have two separate sentences.
Perfect.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers, for that clarification. That's really helpful. Dr. Harpsheet, did you have additional comments on this item?
I am sorry for keeping my hand up. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I just want to make sure we're reaching everybody. It's all good. No worries.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no further comments, we will turn it over to public comment for. Oh wait, we did do public comment for item number 13 already. So we will go then to item number 14.
Before we do that, Mr. Food, just want to clarify if we're getting rid of the second sentence then, and everything that was just amended into the first sentence would be inclusive of Dr. Rogers' changes.
I'm sorry, you're proposing to strike all disciplinary information included in the letter is taken from?
Uh-huh.
Dr. Rogers?
Yes, because it's now in the first sentence.
Okay, great.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Ms. Ork, did that answer the question?
And then Mr. Glassbeagle, you just need to delete that sentence. Okay, perfect. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Ork, and thank you, Dr. Rogers. Moving to item 14 related to conversion therapy.
The board should report on its disciplinary and outreach activities related to prohibited conversion therapy practice on minors. Additionally, the board should advise the committees if there are existing barriers to enforcing the law, such as refusal to sign release form or narrow statute of limitations.
Dr. Phillips, the world is your oyster.
Okay, I just have one change, and it's just a suggestion. And Ms. Sork, if this is not appropriate, please let me know. In the last paragraph where it says, additionally, the board would consider adding minimum and maximum penalties, could we say will consider? Just put it on the agenda of the enforcement committee for a recommendation to the board?
If that's the will of the board, that would be a more proactive stance there.
Are there objections to Dr. Phillips' recommendation from the board? Hearing none. Dr. Phillips.
That's it.
And Madam Moderator, can we turn to public comment for item number 14, please?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel. We will display instructions shortly. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and I would just make a notation that the board has answered verbally Dr. Winkleman's 109 comment so that we don't accidentally think we didn't. So we will turn to item number, seeing no further discussion on item number 14. We will look to item number 15, which starts on page 40 of 67 and begins the issues related to the practice of psychology. So Ms. Oren.
The board should discuss its recommendation with the committees. Additionally, the board should explain how it currently tracks psychologists licensed in another state who offer psychological services in California and how the 30 calendar days are documented.
I have a few comments. I don't think there needs to be a return between the second and third paragraph. And I think we can shorten the third paragraph as it stands. I would say the board would like to request the committee's assistance in making this change. We say statutory change 3 times in 3 sentences. So the board would like to request the committee's assistance in making this change. And then the next sentence, instead of saying this statutory change, I would say this proposed change is included in the attached addendum.
And then, Mr. Glassbeagle, after this, on the second paragraph where it says non-consecutive calendar days, you would just go after that period and do a delete so you could move that last line up.
Was that not the edits between the first and second paragraph? Was I incorrect on that?
No, it's between the second and third, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I apologize.
That's right.
All right, I will delete this one after. These are not the easiest to delete.
Thank you, Mr. Glassbeagle. All right, yes, Dr. Rogers.
Just one quick comment. Placing a comma after the word currently at the beginning of the board response. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Dr. Phillips. All right, we will turn over to public comment for item number 15.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. The Q&A panel is now available. We will display instructions shortly. All right, if anyone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and I apologize. I didn't realize I hadn't scrolled down when I made that comment earlier. So apologies to our colleagues at Solid.
No worries.
All right. So we've done now items 11 through 15. Before moving on, I just want to again take pause to hear from any board members who have any items from 11 through 15 that through conversation reminded you of items, discussion points. All right, not seeing, yes, oh, okay. Not seeing any further items for review back from 11 through 15. We will head on to item 16 related to mental health services for COVID-19 providers. We'll start with staff, then we'll go to Dr. Phillips.
The board should discuss any findings related to the delivery of mental and behavioral health care to frontline healthcare providers and first responders.
Okay. So I'm not sure we really respond to the question. I don't know how we can respond to the question in that we don't organize or deliver mental health services. So I just put that out there as a general comment that we may want to discuss some more, but I will discuss some specific changes I would suggest. First paragraph, final sentence. While it is not in the board's jurisdiction to deliver mental and behavioral health, it does engage, as instead of get involved, does engage in advocacy surrounding the delivery of services by means such as suicide prevention training. So between services and such would be the words by means. And then in the second paragraph, almost to the end of the paragraph, it'd be the third line from the bottom. It says medical professionals throughout the state can join this program. I think that should read healthcare professionals. We are not medical professionals. And I think that's it. But then there's the general question, are we being responsive? And maybe Ms. Soar could respond to that.
One quick other, after healthcare professionals throughout the state, if you can capitalize state in that case, because we're talking about our specific state. This one was a little bit of a challenge for staff because, as Dr. Phillips mentioned, the board is not directly involved in the delivery of mental and behavioral health care. But I feel like in looking at AB 562 and where that may be going, this was kind of a tip off to that discussion. So I get the sense that this is more of a to be continued on the side of the legislature, and less of of us getting involved in this policy discussion at this stage until maybe that bill has a little more detail, and then perhaps that might be the venue where this board gets more involved in the answer to this question more specifically. That would be my only input.
Yeah, that makes sense actually to me. And I noticed one other change that we should probably make, where it says, while it is not in the board's jurisdiction to deliver mental and behavioral, I think it should be health care. This is probably as good as we can do with it, Ms. Sork, I think, given that limitation.
Dr. Harpsheets, I saw your hand go up previously.
I just wanted to add the word care that Dr. Phillips just did, so I brought my hand down.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Dr. Harpsheets. Before turning to Mr. Vantes, would it, just to go back to Dr. Phillips' question, Dr. Phillips, do you feel like we answered the question more? We just said the board has no findings related to the delivery of mental and behavioral health services because the board's jurisdiction is not to deliver. I mean, that last sentence, but does that better address the question for you? We were more explicit in just.
I wonder if there's some way we can move that up to the front.
So what I'm hearing then is maybe we can just say the board's jurisdiction. The board's jurisdiction is not to deliver mental and behavioral health care. period. As such, we don't have any initial findings related to this issue.
Mr. Fu, can you repeat the second part of the beginning of the next sentence?
Oh, sure, of course. As such, the board has no initial findings related to the delivery of mental, etc. Like basically the remainder of the sentence in the staff recommendation. So you can copy and paste. You can copy and paste the related to the delivery of mental and behavioral health care to frontline healthcare providers and first responders in the staff recommendation to complete the sentence. And while you're making, and then you can add there then, the board does engage in advocacy, which is the last sentence, and we're moving that up.
Are we getting rid of the word since and just saying
Well, that goes with the next sentence.
So we'll delete since here,
Yeah,
capitalize
that's fine.
since.
And just put it in the next one.
Yeah, and then we can put, sorry, we'll let you actually type this out.
Board does training.
Period.
New paragraph since the board's last.
New paragraph?
Sure. It might, and also maybe to not sound so harsh in our response, we can include in there at the end of the first paragraph, I'm making sure I capture what Ms. Dorick said in terms of paying attention. So the board will continue to monitor this issue. Is that accurate, Ms. Dorick? Did I just commit us to something that?
I think it's responsive. So from that standpoint, I think it answers the question more fully. And I think monitor doesn't commit us to anything. So it's neutral enough.
Okay. I just want to make sure we didn't set up a whole new program in this response by accident. So, all right, Dr. Phillips, does this satisfy your question related to whether or not we're answering this question?
Yes, it does. I do think, I just wonder, Ms. Sork, does this first paragraph feel too abrupt?
I think anytime we can be very clear on who we are and what we do, it never hurts to be very clear about that. So I think it sounds fine.
Okay.
I mean, if we want to be affirmative, we can always say we can just restate our mission. The board's mission is to protect the consumers of California, et cetera, period. Our jurisdiction does not include the delivery of mental health and behavioral health care, period. And then, if it sounds more positive and affirming to start off with our mission, and then to clarify that the mission is not inclusive of the delivery of mental and behavioral health care, that certainly makes sense as well. Ms. Cervantes has had her hand up, and I just want to make sure we get to her.
I don't have any further comments. My concerns were addressed in the discussion we just had with the edits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cervantes.
I actually like that idea, Rhonda, putting the board's mission is to protect the consumers of California consumers of psychological services. I think it starts as a slightly easier note.
We ease into the no.
Adding in the full mission. Sorry, this is Jason.
Jason, I don't think you can. Yes, we would add in the full mission, which you can put here in comments, insert full mission. Or I can read it for you here too, because I have it on my screen, whichever is preferable to you.
If you have it up, go for it.
The board's mission is to protect consumers of psychological services by licensing psychologists, regulating the practice of psychology, and supporting the evolution of the profession. If we even want to drive the point more, we can say the board is not statutorily authorized to deliver mental and behavioral health care.
Oh, but isn't that an invitation? I don't want to give many. I don't want to suggest that we do that.
Okay, so we'll just say the board's jurisdiction is not. You can. Thank you, Jason, for indulging my riffing there for a moment. We'll go back to the board's jurisdiction is not to deliver mental health and behavioral healthcare services or healthcare. All right.
And Mr.
Yeah,
really
go
quick, make the boards possessive, and then just a couple of comments with the list of licensing psychologists, comma, regulating the practice of psychology, comma, and supporting the evolution of the profession. Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions, issues from the board on this topic? All right. Okay, so we're going to go to public comment on this. And Madam Moderator, when you switch it over to public comment, could you also please remind folks that they need to input?
Really quick, just because it looks like we've left something open. After discussions have included insurance coverage for telehealth and loan reimbursement for providers, it says while it's not in the, was that just did you guys want to continue that thought or just delete while it's not in the?
Delete that thought.
Okay, just making sure we didn't miss that.
Yep, thank you for catching that.
All right, this is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions shortly. If you would like to make a comment, please type. I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists.
And Madam Moderator, oops.
I was just going to say I see no request for public comment at this time.
Yes, and I would also, I do see a hand raised from the public, and I would say if they are interested in making a public comment on this item, to please follow the instructions listed here and as shared by Madam Moderator to type in the box to do what is instructed. The hand raise feature is not a feature that we are using to take public comment. So I'm gonna just keep this open for another 30 seconds or so.
Sure.
So that that person with their hand raised can respond through the instructions you provided.
All right, we have an individual identified as Sarah Belgrad who would like to make a comment. So Sarah, I have unmuted you.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Dr. Belgrad. I am from CDCR. How's everybody doing today? I do have a comment, and I'm trying to get back to the screen where I can see the Word document. But in the last paragraph, actually in the first paragraph, when we talk about delivery of healthcare, I think it should be healthcare services, so that they're very clear on what kind of healthcare you're talking about. And then in the last paragraph, even though for some reason I can't see the document right now, in the very last paragraph, there's a couple sentences there where I don't think there were enough commas on the list before. There's a list of things and then an and. I wish I could see the thing right now, but I'm just a really good proofreader, so I wanted to let you guys know. But when I toggled over to unraise my hand, now I can't get back into that screen. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? I'm going to just end my comment now because I can't get back to the screen to read it back to you.
I think we did get those commas.
Okay. And then, like I said, just in that first paragraph, when you say healthcare, I think it should be healthcare services, so that it's very clear that the board does not deliver healthcare services. They will not be providing the service of healthcare.
Thank you for the comments, Dr. Belgrad.
Sure, thank you.
Seeing no further public comment, Madam Moderator, you can go ahead and close the public comment section.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. It is closed.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And then I know I should mention that it is a technological Olympics that both our team and Solids team are doing to keep both displayed. So I just want to take the moment to acknowledge the switching back and forth of the sharing screens and making this as seamless as possible. So thank you both to the team at Solid and to Mr. Glass-Steagall on that front. We've reflected the comments from the public and added services here. Other additional board comments?
Mr. Fu, if I might real quick, I was not able to identify if there was areas in need of commas in the final paragraph here.
I am going to say that ultimately this is going to get another proof again, and when it's time for that motion, I'm going to suggest that we also delegate to Dr. Phillips and Ms. Sorick to go through again, really just on the technical pieces related to like any of the copy editing that needs to happen. So we could, if you want to flag a note here and just insert comment to say review for commas, I will trust that Dr. Phillips and Ms. Sorick will appropriately comb through this paragraph in particular to make sure we have, in this case, not the I's dotted, but the commas inserted.
And Mr. Fu, on that note, just so I don't forget, after the California Health Corps is the state's response. Again, that's just another capital S on states, just in case I forget.
Thank you, Ms. Sorick.
What paragraph are we talking about, Ms. Sorick?
The highlighted paragraph? So California Health Corps is the state's response, just capital S there. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further board discussion on item number 16, and with thank you for the input that we received from the public, we will turn to item number 17 as it relates to child custody. I will turn this over to you, Ms. Sorick.
Mr. Glass-Steagall, thank you. The board should report to the committees on its work addressing child custody issues and provide any recommendations for legislative changes that would enhance consumer protection.
Dr. Phillips, chair of our enforcement committee, and
I have no comments.
okay, no comments from Dr. Phillips. Are there comments from the board for with any edits related to this paragraph? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and then open for public comment from, and I'll turn over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Madam, or Mr. President. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions. If anyone would like to make a comment, please type I would like to make a comment using the field at the bottom lower right of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. System moderator, I see no request for public comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to turn this back over to the board to see if folks have any comments. Dr. Rogers?
Yes, I have one comment. The sentence that starts with the byproduct of this meeting, I believe byproduct is BY instead of BI.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good, fun catch. I like that one.
That was fun.
Dr. Phillips, you may be ceremoniously dismissed for the copy editing with that one.
I think the mantle of Dr. Horn has been passed on to her fellow Sacramento psychologist, Dr. Rogers.
We'll have a crown appropriately created for Dr. Rogers. Dr. Harpsheet?
And a sash, please.
Newly noted, we will have both done. Using private resources, of course. Dr. Harpsheets, any comments?
Oh, I was going on to number 18. We're on 17 still, right?
Yes, we are on 17.
Yeah. No, I'm on number 18. Sorry.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Dr. Harpsheets. All right, seeing no further comments, thank you, Dr. Phillips, Dr. Rogers for number 17. We will take on 18. Staff will read the recommendation. We'll turn to Dr. Harpsheets. And then Dr. Phillips, if you have additional comments after Dr. Harpsheets, feel free to add. So, Ms. Ork.
The board should inform the committees on its regulatory efforts regarding telehealth and telepsychology, particularly as it responded to issues related to COVID-19. Additionally, the board should discuss any identified issues or legislative recommendations to improve access to telehealth services.
Should I comment? Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In the second paragraph, the third line down, the word border should be B-O-R-D-E-R. And then 1, 2, 3, the fourth line down, it says like Provençal, it should be provincial. Provinc. Right. Okay. Those were my comments there.
Before we go into Dr. Phillips and Dr. Cervantes, actually, may I make a suggestion, Dr. Harpsheets, that instead of saying cross-border, we say cross-jurisdictional telehealth practice?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine for me.
Should this be a hyphenated?
It would be, right? It would be because if you flip-flop the words, it gives a different meaning. So then you would want it hyphenated.
Got it.
Thank you, Dr. Harpsheets, and thank you for catching that the border one as well. All right, so we're going to go to Ms. Cervantes, Dr. Rogers, and then Dr. Phillips, if he has any additional comments. So, Ms. Cervantes.
I just have a general comment when item 18 and 19 are edited. There is the ASPPB and the name being spelled out, the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards. It's used interchangeably, and that can be confusing for, I think, even for the committee staff who doesn't deal with these acronyms the way that we do. So if we can just have some consistency about if we spell it and then indicate what the acronym is and then use the acronym all the way through, or just some kind of consistency, whatever's decided when you edit this document. I think that my bigger concern for the committee is that they confuse, because they're not used to using the acronyms, that they confuse that we're saying or inviting some type of jurisdiction for them to intervene with when they're not needed. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Cervantes. Dr. Rogers?
Yes, hi. I have two comments. The first one is in the second paragraph, the last sentence that starts with based on the interactions. I would place a comma after telehealth and before the board. And the second comment is, let me pull it up. The third paragraph, let's see, toward the end of the first sentence. So where it says barriers surrounding access to telehealth, I think a better word for surrounding might be impeding. And that's it for my comments on this section. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. All right, Dr. Phillips, any additional comments for this item, item 18?
I was toggling between screens. I just have one comment. My other comments, excuse me, were subsumed by other people's remarks, but the very final sentence, at the end of the committee's analysis, the committee will provide a recommendation to the full board regarding, I think it's saying, instead of saying California's interest in, just say to the full board regarding participation in SciPact. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. So we are going to turn this over to, just want to make sure, Dr. Rogers, did you have additional comments on this?
I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
No, it's all good. I just want to make sure I'm making sure we include everyone. All right, so seeing no further board comment, we're going to turn this over for public comment for item number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions shortly. All right, if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. This is the moderator. I see no requests for public comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
You're welcome. It's closed.
All right. So I realize we've been going for about an hour and a half now, and past experience has taught me that we probably need a break. So I'm going to stop here and say that we will return at 2:05 on starting with item number 19 at that point. So the board will be in recess until 2:05 p.m. And at that point, we'll return from recess to begin issue number 19 on this agenda item number 6. All right, the time being 2:05 p.m., we will return for the for item 6. I'm going to ask that Ms. Porteau again call the roll to reestablish quorum, or at least to show that we've maintained quorum. Ms. Porteau.
Sure. Dr. Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Fu.
Here.
Harb Sheets.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
And Tate.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, quorum being maintained, we will head over to item number 19 as it relates to independent contractors. Mr. Glassbeagle will pull it up, and since I have it in front of me, I'll lead us off. The staff recommendation is that the board should inform the committees of any discussions it has had about the Dynamex decision in AB5 and whether there is potential to impact the current landscape of the psychology profession beyond the exemption provided to psychologists. So so that was the staff recommendation, and we will have it up shortly so that board members can respond to the edits, to the paragraph. And the board's response to the staff recommendation while it's being pulled up is that the board's primary charge is the protection of consumers. However, it monitors statutory developments that impact licensees, excuse me. The board continues to watch the development of the issue and has not been made aware of any impacts on its licensees to date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that Dr. Harpsheets will call on you just shortly. We're just waiting for this to get pulled up so that staff can capture any additional thoughts. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Glassbeagle. Appreciate the wrestling of technology for us here.
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. This is part of remote work, so thank you for being flexible and working with us on this. Dr. Harpsheets?
I know that the staff recommendation only refers to psychologists, but I wonder if when we say that impact licensees, both twice there, would we say and or registrants, since we have both licensees and registrants, or is that getting too broad?
Typically, when we reference licensees, we're referencing all of our licensees and registrants. But if you would like to make it more specific, we can add registrants to that list because it's not a very long statement.
Could it be potentially problematic by adding registrants to it? Does it broaden it in a way that we should just stick with the language in the recommendation?
That's really a policy call. When AB5 was amended, psychologists were amended out of the provisions, but psychological assistants were not. So if this is really a kind of policy discussion for the board about the distinction between the two areas and who was and wasn't included in the bill.
Okay.
Not to toss the hot potato, but
yeah, I know, right?
In light of that, it's better to leave it licensees.
I think so too. I agree.
All right. So I'm not seeing any further board comment. I'm going to ask the Madam Moderator do some technological gymnastics, and we'll get to our instructions to comment. Over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel, and we will be displaying instructions shortly. If anyone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. Mr. Board President, I see no requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, returning back to the board for item number 19. I'm not seeing any other board discussion, so we will then turn to item number 20, which is related to technical cleanup. Ms. Orr?
The board should work with the committees to enact any technical changes to the Business and Professions Code needed to add clarity and remove unnecessary language.
Dr. Phillips?
Very minor change. I would just say assistance in making global changes to meet this goal. So just insert the word making.
And Mr. Glassbeagle, if we could also change the font size here, it looks slightly different as well.
And I would make the recommendation to capitalize legislature and legislature's assistance. Great. All right. Not seeing further board comments. We're going to go over to public comments on issue number 20.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions shortly. All right, if anyone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All right, it's closed.
Thank you. And I'm not seeing any further comment. I'm assuming Dr. Phillips' hand is in reference to the item that he's spoken on. Dr. Phillips, thank you, Dr. Phillips. All right.
That's correct.
So, thank you. So we're going to go to the last item, issue 21. This is related to the continuation of the board. The committee staff recommendation was that the practice of psychology should continue to be regulated by the Board of Psychology. In order to protect the interest of the public, the board should be reviewed by the committees once again on a future date to be determined. Board members, any edits to our board response? Expression of sentiments to the contrary? Dr. Phillips, any edits on this one?
No, sir.
All right. Looks like there are no board comments on this item. Let's turn this over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel. We will display instructions shortly. All right. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
All right, so we're going to turn this back to the board. So what I'm going to ask the board actually, do you have any, well, first of all, I'm going to ask the board if we could have a motion to approve the board's draft responses included within the background paper for the California Board of Psychology to submit to the Assembly Committee on Business and Professions.
So move.
Is there a second?
I second.
I think I heard Dr. Phillips's voice in that. So it's been moved by Dr. Tate, seconded by Dr. Phillips. I'm going to ask the board if you have any final comments of any magnitude to our board responses. This is the last stop for any additional comments and edits on this front. Dr. Phillips and Ms. Cervantes.
I just wanted to thank staff for all the hard work they put into this document. Obviously, it's an incredibly important document given that it's part of the decision as to whether we continue for another 4 years. So I just want to express my appreciation for them and express my appreciation for the patience of the board with my multiple changes. And I think it looks great. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. And after this motion, we're gonna do a motion to delegate authority to Executive Officer Sork and you for any other.
Whoopee.
But we're going to split this up into 2 motions for our purposes here. So, Mr. Cervantes, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I just have 2 general editing comments. Some of this is kind of outside of the space of our conversations we were talking about because it exists in the background information, but there are places, like in the first half of this document, up until about page 32, there is a phrase, doctorate degree in psychology, that appears several times, and it should be doctoral degree in psychology. That's a style issue that should be corrected in our responses when it comes up. And then the other one was just clarifying that acronym of ASPPB in our responses when it comes up, so that they're not, we're not using the acronym and spelling it out interchangeably, so that there's consistency throughout the document and it reads better for people who are not immersed in our language. Those are my 2 general editing style comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. And I just did a quick Control F on the document, and all the references to doctorate instead of doctoral came from the Senate and came from the legislative committees. So we certainly can provide unofficial feedback to them on that piece. Based on the initial review I did with Control F, any of the board's responses, as well as the amendment language, we use doctoral. And we'll also add the note regarding the use of acronyms as well to the legislative committees.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any additional board comments? All right. So I'm going to flip it over to public comment for the motion before us, which is to approve the draft responses and submit it to the legislature or to the Assembly Business and Professions Committee. Any additional?
All right.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Sorry.
No worries. So the Q&A panel is now available. If someone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. So there's this motion before us. There's going to be another motion that I'm going to suggest we make related to delegation of authority. So seeing no board discussion or staff's mics are muted, I'm going to ask then that Ms. Pertot, could you please call the roll for the motion made by Dr. Tate and seconded by Dr. Phillips as it relates to approval of the draft responses and submission to the Assembly Business and Professions Committee.
Yes. Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Fu.
Aye.
Harpsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom. Oh, are you recused on this one as well? Sorry, I
I
lost
am
track.
recused. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phillips.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. May I, is there a motion to delegate authority to the Executive Officer Sorek and to Dr. Phillips to make one final review for any technical amendments, any technical non-substantive changes, including grammatical corrections to this document?
So moved.
I heard Dr. Harpsheets and I heard Dr. Kasuga. So it's been moved by Dr. Harpsheets and seconded by Dr. Kasuga. Dr. Phillips as the, thank you, Dr. Kasuga. Dr. Phillips as the unwilling volunteer / voluntold to do this. Any additional comments from you?
No, I'll be happy to do it. I just hope I don't have to look at it the next couple days.
Okay. All right, so not seeing any board discussion on this issue or staff, I'm going to ask for public comment on the motion to delegate authority to our EO and to Dr. Phillips for technical non-substantive changes.
All right, the Q&A panel is now available. If anyone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator. I see no requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
All right. Okay, so motion before us, not seeing further board comment. Ms. Pertot, please call the roll.
Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Thank you. Fu.
Aye.
Harpsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom recused. Phillips.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
And Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would, if we were in a room right now, there would be a round of applause. I just want to echo Dr. Phillips' comments and of gratitude to our board staff who have worked on this for the last now 2 years to get us to this point. And also just thank you to you, Dr. Phillips, for your time and care in making sure that the responses we're providing to the board are reflective of where we want to be and where the board's voice is. And then to all of our board members who participated today, Dr. Harpsheets, Dr. Tate, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Kasuga, Ms. Cervantes, and Ms. Nystrom, thank you so much for sticking it through with us on this effort. It's really, this is the board's product, and the fact that all of us did this together, I think, is really a great example of teamwork by remote, in our remote setting. So thank you. And again, thank you to our colleagues in Solid and our board staff who helped manage the live editing at this point. Mr. Glasspiegel, I think thanks to you too for tolerating our editing while you're typing. So I know it's always a challenge to do that. Okay, I felt like Julia Roberts at the Academy Awards without an orchestra telling me to be quiet. So we will now go on to item number 7, which is related to our our regulatory items. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Ms. Cervantes, for a regulatory update.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, the regulatory update, review, and possible action on additional changes. This can be found on page 163 of the combined package. This is an information item. No action is requested at this time. Is there any board comment? Seeing none, could we open public comment?
Of course. The Q&A panel is now available. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
And, you know, I didn't ask if there was any staff comment on this item, although this is only informational.
No staff comment on this section.
Okay, thank you. So I see no further comment. So that concludes item number 7. Thank you, Mr. Fu.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cervantes. So we will now go to item number 8, recommendation for agenda items for future board meetings. Note that the board may not discuss or take any action on any matter related, on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting per the government codes listed before you. Board members, are there agenda items for future board meetings for consideration? All right, not seeing any board members with items for consideration, I will turn it over to you, Madam Moderator, for any public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel. And if any members of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator. I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no further board comments on this item, we will note that we will not go to closed session. There are no items for closed session today. And so as we wrap up, I'll just say that we will see you at our May 21st, 2021 May 21st board meeting, which will also be held on WebEx. And we'll also have our August one-day meeting on August 27th. And a plug for myturn.ca.gov, because I'm sure our colleagues at other agencies would appreciate that plug. Board members, any final comments for today?
I have one.
Ms. Cervantes, please.
I just wanted to acknowledge my personal appreciation for this board and the staff and their commitment to transparency and public engagement. It's been apparent the ways that folks who come to our meeting have participated in some of the documents that we ratified today. And I just, it's more work to engage more people. And sometimes it takes more time and it makes the process sometimes more messy. But the commitment to do that, it has created, I think, a better product. And I just wanted to say how much I really appreciate that in general for all of you. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you. I would say thanks to you too, Maricela, for your patience in walking us through that so carefully.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I don't see any other unmuted mics. And so many thanks to Executive Officer Sork for getting us through today, and to all the fantastic staff at the board with preparing the materials, and to our colleagues at DCA Legal and Solid. Mr. Jackson, congratulations to you on your retirement, and we wish you the best. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Dr. Kasuga has moved for the adjournment, which only requires one motion. So the board will be adjourned until our May 21st meeting. Thank you so much for everyone for your participation and engagement with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Fu and everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.